Everyone knows about the woolly mammoth. Almost nobody talks about the animal that shared its entire world, its exact habitat, and even its extinction timeline. The woolly rhino. And thanks to an incredibly rare kind of fossil, we actually know more about how this animal looked, moved, and lived than almost any other Ice Age species. Let's start with what made this animal so strange, because it wasn't just a rhino with a fur coat. An adult woolly rhino could weigh close to 2 tons, roughly comparable to a small car, covered in thick, shaggy fur, built to handle brutal Ice Age cold. Underneath that fur was a layer of dense fat, and its ears and tail were noticeably shorter and smaller than those of modern rhino species, likely an adaptation to reduce heat loss in extreme cold, similar to how Arctic foxes have shorter ears than desert foxes. Its most distinctive feature was a massive front horn, sometimes measuring close to a meter long, flattened slightly on the sides rather than perfectly round. Some researchers believe this horn shape wasn't just for defense or display. It may have been used like a snowplow, sweeping aside snow to reach buried grass underneath. Behind that horn was a second, smaller horn, and behind that, a distinctive muscular hump on its shoulders, likely storing fat reserves to survive long stretches without abundant food. Here's where this animal becomes genuinely unique in the fossil record. Unlike almost any other Ice Age species, we have actual frozen woolly rhino mummies, preserved so well in Siberian permafrost that their skin, fur, and internal organs survived intact for tens of thousands of years. One of the most remarkable examples is a baby woolly rhino, nicknamed Sasha, discovered in Siberia and dated to roughly 34,000 years old. Sasha was found by a hunter along the bank of a Siberian river in 2014 and remains one of the most complete woolly rhino specimens ever recovered, with much of its body still covered in reddish-brown fur, exactly as it would have looked in life. Sasha's fur, stomach contents, and even skin texture were preserved well enough for scientists to study in detail, giving us a level of insight most extinct species could never provide. Other adult specimens have also been recovered from Siberian permafrost over the years, some so well preserved that researchers could examine wear patterns on their teeth and even identify specific plant fragments still present in their digestive tracts. From specimens like this, researchers have directly examined stomach contents and confirmed the woolly rhino's diet. It was a grazer, feeding almost entirely on grasses, sedges, and low-growing steppe vegetation, similar in ecological role to mammoths, but generally more selective about which plants it targeted. This means woolly rhinos and woolly mammoths weren't just neighbors sharing the same landscape. In some ways, they were also quietly competing for the exact same dry grassland resources. Now let's build out an actual scene, because this is where the AI reconstruction really comes to life. Picture a woolly rhino moving alone across the open mammoth steppe, roughly 18,000 years ago, somewhere across what is now Siberia. Unlike mammoths, which lived in social herds, woolly rhinos appear to have been largely solitary animals, based on the pattern of remains found at most sites. This rhino lowers its massive horn and sweeps it across a snow-covered patch of ground, clearing away a layer of frost to reach the dry grass hidden underneath. Its small eyes and relatively poor eyesight meant it likely relied heavily on smell and hearing to detect danger, rather than watching for threats visually. Predators of this era, including cave lions and pack hunting wolves, generally avoided targeting healthy adult woolly rhinos directly. Its sheer size, thick hide, and that formidable horn made it a genuinely risky target, so predators were far more likely to focus on young, sick, or already injured individuals instead. This matches a pattern seen across many Ice Age megafauna. Size and weaponry weren't just for show. They were a real, functioning defense system against a landscape full of serious predators. Early humans also knew about the woolly rhino and left behind striking proof of it. Inside Chauvet Cave in France, alongside paintings of lions and mammoths, there are detailed depictions of woolly rhinos, some showing multiple rhinos in what appears to be dynamic, almost battle-like poses. These paintings, dated to roughly 32,000 years ago, tell us early humans observed these animals closely enough to capture specific anatomical details, including that distinctive horn shape and shoulder hump. Some of the Chauvet cave panels even show what look like two woolly rhinos facing off with lowered horns, possibly depicting territorial or mating behavior these ancient artists had personally witnessed out on the steppe. Interestingly, direct evidence of humans hunting woolly rhinos is far rarer than evidence of mammoth hunting. Very few kill sites with clear butchery marks on woolly rhino bones have been found, compared to the much larger number of mammoth kill and processing sites across the same regions. This suggests that while humans certainly knew about woolly rhinos and likely occasionally hunted or scavenged them, they may not have been a primary, regularly targeted food source in the same way mammoths were. So if humans weren't hunting them into extinction at the same intensity, what actually happened to the woolly rhino? The most likely answer, once again, comes down primarily to climate change, though the story is a bit different from the mammoths. As the Ice Age ended and the climate warmed rapidly, the dry grassland steppe that woolly rhinos depended on for food began shrinking and transforming into wetter, boggier terrain unsuitable for their diet. Unlike mammoths, woolly rhinos appear to have been fairly specialized grazers, meaning they had less flexibility to shift toward alternative food sources as the landscape changed, which may have made this particular transition especially difficult for them. Genetic studies on ancient woolly rhino DNA have shown something notable. Unlike some other Ice Age megafauna, woolly rhino populations don't show strong evidence of long-term genetic decline before their extinction. This suggests their populations remained relatively stable and genetically healthy, right up until a relatively sudden environmental shift simply removed the habitat they needed to survive. In other words, this wasn't a slow, drawn-out genetic collapse like we see in some other Ice Age species. It looks more like a healthy population running out of usable world within a surprisingly short window of time. Woolly rhinos disappeared from most of their range somewhere between 14,000 and 10,000 years ago, closely tracking the same rapid warming period that reshaped the entire mammoth steppe ecosystem. Some of the last known populations may have persisted in isolated pockets slightly longer, but by around 10,000 years ago, the species was gone from the fossil record entirely. What makes the woolly rhino's story stand out isn't a dramatic tale of overhunting or slow genetic unraveling. It's the story of a genuinely well-adapted, physically formidable animal that simply couldn't outrun the speed of a changing climate, no matter how well defended it was against every threat it had evolved to handle. There's something quietly humbling about that. Being big, being armored, being nearly untouchable to predators, none of it mattered when the actual ground beneath its feet stopped producing the food it needed. And thanks to specimens like Sasha, frozen in permafrost for tens of thousands of years, this is one Ice Age animal we don't have to guess about. We can look at its actual preserved fur, skin, and stomach contents and know almost exactly how it lived. The next time you picture Ice Age wildlife, remember, the mammoth wasn't out there alone. Somewhere nearby, an enormous horned animal was quietly sweeping snow off frozen grass, living a life we can now reconstruct in remarkable, almost photographic detail. If you want to see what happens when a woolly rhino and a cave lion actually cross paths, subscribe because that encounter did not go the way you'd expect.